St. Mary's Maliseet Nation is located within the city limits of Fredericton, New Brunswick, along the St. John River Valley, one of the very few urban-based First Nations communities in Canada.
The river is our identity. That's who we are. She was our highway. She fed us. There was a cycle to our way of life because we depended on our mother, the earth, and the river by which we're named. Wolastoq, the Wolastoq River. It's the beautiful river, and it's beautiful. Wolastoqiyik are the people of the beautiful river. That's who we are. That's our name for ourselves.
The river was our source of life, you know. The Maliseet communities were all along the river. My grandfather used to skate from here right down to Armukto. You know, the river, it was our fish to eat, you know, trapping for our muskrats, fiddleheads, you know, in the spring. It was a way of transportation. So it was us. It is who we are. Today, you know, our river is not providing. There's no salmon, polluted. We miss our river, definitely. We miss our river. Our people were forced to move from the river, from our old reserve, and forced to move up here.
For many years, they lived a meager existence, dependent on the government to survive.
We had a high unemployment rate, I would say probably close to 100%. People in the community were living on social assistance. You know, of course, their self-esteem would be down. You know, we had high alcohol and drug problem, more alcohol in the earlier days. You know, and there would be violence, and when things happened in the community, it got overblown, and I think people may have heard, you know, the bad stories instead of the good stories that happened in our communities. We didn't go off the community too much, so it was very segregated here in the community, so, and they stuck to themselves.
In the mid-90s, the community made a decision that would change their way of life forever, a new way to provide for their people. They looked around at what they could do with what they have, and came up with bingo.
39, here we go.
Bingo, a favorite pastime of many people, a gold mine waiting to be discovered.
Okay, last call, quickies on the run.
I don't know what it is about our people, but they loved bingo. Like we had a small, very small community bingo with very dedicated people. So when we were looking around trying to decide on what is it, what can we do? And then we said our bingo. You know, people love to play bingo. And if they weren't coming to ours, they were going in town. So we said, let's do the bingo. Let's make it a big bingo. And so we said, let's try it. And so we got a partner, and we built this 25,000 square foot 2 bingo halls, and it's come to where it is today, one of the biggest and the most successful bingo hall entertainment center in Atlantic Canada. We have bought out our partners. We are the sole owners of it, and it provides income so we can put it back into our community to provide services to them.
They found a niche and began to develop the other side of the river.
My vision would be to be self-sufficient, not to rely on the government. With economic development, employment is one of them. People, you know, when they're healthy and working, they start to contribute to the community. I think that when people are heard and feel that they value your information, that they also want to see the community grow.
Jamie O'Donnell's love for her community brought her home. She is presently the Director of Operations for the St. Mary's Band.
To look at it now compared to what it looked like 15 years ago, like just visually, nothing, you know, behind the scenes, it looks extremely different than it did, you know, growing up as a child and seeing it. When I was young, I can remember, I shouldn't say it wasn't a nice place, but I mean it was small, it was, you know, the houses were there, but there were nothing spectacular or anything like that. And I think I was probably in high school whenever the economic development started to kind of pick up, I guess. You know, we had a small store here, a small store there, and then it just flourished. Our membership increased exponentially. The reserve obviously got bigger. Our homes got nicer. And I think it was almost like a snowball effect. You know, once one thing set in motion, it was just all uphill from there, I guess. Our First Nation is kind of different than most other First Nations, really, because there's only a select few in Canada that are truly urban First Nations, and we are an urban First Nation in that we're smack dab in the middle of a city. So we kind of have a different experience, but I think it's great. Just driving through, most people would have absolutely no idea that you're on a First Nation. None at all, because A, it looks the same as everything else looks, and B, you've got stores and things like that. I think we have to have more of a dominant visual in the community to say to people, look, you're on a First Nation, this is our First Nation, this is what we did. I don't think a lot of people would realize exactly where they're at and say, oh my goodness, this is a First Nation, wow.
We were in a need for a new administration center, so we came up with the idea for this strip mall and put the top floor as our administration office. And we had a client, Peace Hill Trust, that signed a 5-year agreement. The grocery store, we looked at it as saying how much we're spending going out. What is going out of our community? Let's try to keep it in. So we have the grocery store, the gas bar, the smoke shop is very successful too. It's sad to say, but people, you know, do smoke, and it's become successful there too. We also rent spaces to Aboriginal organizations or non-Aboriginal organizations.
O'Donnell Law Firm is one of those companies that was attracted to setting up in this unique urban setting. Jamie O'Donnell's love for her community brought her home.
I graduated from UNB Law. I came out, did my articling at a firm, and I decided it was in my best interest to venture out on my own and see what happened. And of course, then it came, where was I going to do it? Was I going to stay in Fredericton? Then once I came down to Fredericton, where was I going to open my office? Logical choice being the First Nation here with our mini mall, our economic development hub, I guess, of our First Nation. And things are going well. I think I made a great decision. Coming back to my community for one, staying in my community for two, helping the people in my community. I like the fact that I see people every day that I know. There's a certain familiarity of it to me. When I walk in across the parking lot, I know people. When I go to the grocery store, I know people. That element of it, it's a community, and I like that community feel, to have that not as an extraneous element of your life, but to have it as part of your daily life, to feel like you're part of something. I think that's very important for people.
We're getting close to full, and with that meets our loan payment that we had to borrow to build this. Up here on the 3rd floor, we have no rent that was given to us when we first started the building. There has been some changes now. The smoke shop's moved out of there because it's grown to be too big. It's across the parking lot now, and there's other ideas of a cafe. You know, we definitely need a restaurant.
The benefits, too numerous to mention, turned things around for this little community. St. Mary's sees this as an opportunity to do their part for the city of Fredericton.
I will be presenting at the Chamber of Commerce too, and talking about our contribution to the city and what we've contributed. When we bring 500 people in every 6 weeks, they've got to be staying in hotels, eating in restaurants. I met with the Premier Lord one time, the former Premier, and I asked him a question of how many of my people, Maliseet people, were working for his whole province. And he couldn't answer, and I said, I bet you I have more of your people working in my store. And I do, because our store is not just for our people. We employ other people too. It's a way of giving back.
The economic spin-offs for all of Fredericton has made St. Mary's an important contributor.
Every week we'll receive requests for donations for service groups off. We set a good budget for them because it's them who are supporting our businesses, so we give back. It just brings us proud that before people had negativity about coming up here and being told as they were children to stay away from our community, and now how they come up and take part. We have a very successful fisheries, and now we're working with ACFI and working on a business plan, looking maybe at a processing plant and to go into that type of area. But we have 7 lobster licenses and they're all band owned. We have a great fishery director. It's a really good program. We do lobster, scallop, shrimp, sea urchins, and herring. We fish out of the Bay of Fundy, so it's pretty lucrative.
With economic success comes the need for a balance, ensuring that rich cultural traditions are not lost in the river of prosperity. Elder Elma Brooks, a well-known cultural activist, is ever reminding the people not to lose sight of their unique Maliseet identity.
Our language came from the birds and the animals. We can't go anywhere else in the world to recover that language. It's here. The roots are here. It's rooted in this land. We cannot stray away from the teachings. We can't be Maliseets by just economics alone. Economic development is important to our community. Yes, it is, because in this world today we can't live or go or do very much without money. But that's not the only thing that there is, because we can't survive without the earth either. One is just as important as the other. Creation gave us our language. It was here from the beginning of time in this part of the world. That gives us an identity. We have to have an identity, or we're no longer, we'll be like a feather in the wind, just drifting around. We have to be rooted somewhere. We have to know who we are. It's important for our children to know who they are and where they come from. Because if you want to survive, if you want to succeed, you know, in the man-made world, you better have self-esteem, you have to know who you are, you have to have confidence, you have to have knowledge, be rooted, and you have to have strength. You have to find all those things to be able to succeed and survive. So that when our great-grandchildren come into the world, the generations that are yet unborn, there'll be something here for them.
I would be lying to you if I said this job was easy. I do face a lot of challenges. One of them being, the first one, plain to see, is that I'm a woman in a man's world, because the majority of the chiefs are men. You know, I was the first woman chief in my community ever. People told me there's no way this community can vote in a woman, but it was women like Elsie Paul, Elma Brooks, people, you know, who did a lot for women's rights. Those women paved the way, and, you know, I owe a lot to those women.
Experience from those who lead offers some of the most valuable tools that one must possess to navigate through this uncharted river.
The women were at the heart, or at the center of a lot of the decision making.
It's just such a given. Of course, women should be leaders, women should be lawyers, women should be doctors. Women, to me, have with them a certain something, a je ne sais quoi, I guess, because I don't know exactly what word that you would use to describe it, but there's something different about women and about men when it comes down to especially things like leadership.
I think a woman leader is just someone who takes an interest in what's going on around her. She teaches her children and her grandchildren. She's interested. She's interested in her culture, in the earth. She's active.
Women are workers and doers and wants to see the job get done. And I think some of the men like to sit back and say, let the women do the work. And the thing is that I think we've surprised them. I think that they've been surprised of the results that we've gotten. You know, I sit on the AFN Women's Council, I sit on the Chiefs Committee on Health, and I think that the women are doing the work.
For the most part, I think that women have a certain compassion with them that may or may not be present with men, but I think that's, to me anyhow, that's a driving force that is in a lot of our women leadership.
The leaders have to be present. They have to nurture their spirits and nurture, you know, life around them and work for the life-giving forces. That's a leader. They're aware. They're present and they're aware.
I truly believe that our people deserve the best, and nothing, nothing short of that. I don't do drugs or alcohol, and I want to be of good sound mind when one of my members comes to me for help. I want to be able to help them.